It's still good? It hasn't expired?
Trucks wait in single file here in the middle of the desert between Iraq and Saudi Arabia. Men are preparing their cargo for a thorough inspection from the police.
Show me a product so I can see the expiry date. Let's open one at random.
Life has returned to Ara, a long deserted border crossing.
What are the figures today?
29 trucks currently in the exchange yard with 8 ready to leave.
Okay, how long did they have to wait for?
Some have been here for 2 to 3 days already.
When Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait in 1990, Saudi Arabia closed the border and cut off all relations with Iraq. The Ara crossing wasn't to reopen until 30 years later, on the 18th of November, 2020.
The most important thing is that it hasn't expired, okay? Tell him to unload. Unload, unload.
This is currently the only crossing point on the 800-kilometer border between the two countries. About 60 trucks arrive here every day. The Iraqi general in charge of this border point, Ahmad Juma, is already imagining a bright future.
Many trucks carry building materials from Saudi Arabia to Iraq, but the goods are becoming increasingly varied. The reopening of this post is still recent, but it will provide many job opportunities for Iraqis in the Al-Anbar and Rotba regions.
Petrol is good, coolant is good, no problem with the tires. We're ready.
Mohammed Jassim is one of those Iraqis whose life has changed since November 2020. Before then, this truck driver from the Al-Anbar region had few options for his goods. It was impossible to go to Syria, too dangerous. Only Jordan offered him any opportunities.
For me, the opening of the Ara border crossing is like a door opening to a better living. A trip to Ara takes me 5 or 6 days. Going to Jordan can take me a month in total because of the regulations. It hasn't only increased my income, it has also given me back my family life.
Mohammed can now work while enjoying time with his children.
How are you, little Rawan? Do you also want to drive when you grow up?
No.
Why? Where is Youssef? Is he sleeping?
Today, he's preparing his 45th trip in a year to Ara. He knows the road well and knows how important this destination is for truck drivers. So Mohammed helps his friends and family to benefit from it too.
My 3 nephews and I are going to leave with 4 trucks, carrying bottles of juice and water to the border.
Just over 600 kilometers away in Saudi Arabia, Musaid El Enzi is also enjoying an evening with his family. But not all of his relatives are able to be there. This Saudi Arabian living in Ara belongs to a tribe that extends over several countries in the region. Some of his friends and family live in Iraq.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. And you? Look, I'm in a supermarket and there are more and more Saudi products here.
Oh, that's great. Well, if they open up for visits, I hope you'll be over quickly.
Soon, I hope, God willing.
For the time being, the Ara border post is only open for trade. Civilians are still not allowed to cross. That means the celebrations of Musaid's tribe are only attended by its Saudi members for now, waiting for the day when the Iraqis can finally join them.
It's been a long wait. You know, when the border was still open to civilians, we felt very close to each other. It was very easy to go there. The traditions and the food were very similar. We even felt like we were in the same country most of the time. It's only an hour's drive away after all.
All these exchanges have been interrupted for 30 years. A whole way of life disappeared when the border closed in 1990.
My last visit to Iraq, it was in 1989. I went to see family and friends over there and did a little tourism. I stayed 10 days. and I visited quite a few of the regions. At the time, our relations with Iraq were still good. Afterwards, there was the Gulf War and everything went downhill. They closed the border and banned us from crossing. I haven't been back since.
The commercial opening of the Arra border crossing has given hope to cross-border communities. Perhaps one day soon, Musaid will be able to resume his travels. On the Iraqi side, Mohammed and his nephews are busy preparing their own trip. It's 5:30 a.m. and they have to travel almost 600 kilometers to reach the border post of Arra. The whole road crosses through the Al Anbar region, which reassures Mohammed.
The other roads are not for us. There's a lot of trade in Basra in the southeast, but we don't have any contacts there. So we could face irregularities, let's say.
This new road has not escaped the widespread corruption plaguing Iraq. But here, Mohammed feels less vulnerable since he knows the local authorities. He hopes that the reopening of the border will encourage development in his region.
We would be happy if our Saudi neighbors came and invested in Iraq. The whole of the Al Anbar desert is totally abandoned. There's plenty to do, honestly. If they invest here, they could provide a lot of jobs for the people of this region.
With the warming relations between Saudi Arabia and Iraq, there are more and more cross-border projects. Plans have been drawn up to modernize the road and cultivate 1 million hectares of desert. But for the moment, nothing has materialized, and the roadsides remain desperately empty.
We stop like this because there is nothing around here. Up to the border, there's no restaurants, no supermarkets. Not even at the border crossing, you'll see.
Investment comes in dribs and drabs. Political instability and security threats still worry the Saudis. There's also Iran's overwhelming influence in Iraq, leaving them little room for maneuver. Yet the opening of the border is already having a noticeable effect. In 2020, trade between Iraq and Saudi Arabia increased by 15%. On the Saudi side, Musaid has seen many changes.
Look all around you, there's a lot of renovation. These workers are expanding the road and building a parking space. This is since the opening of the border post. Many young people from the neighboring villages have also bought themselves trucks to trade with Iraq. You have to understand that for us Saudis, the Arra border crossing is our gateway to Europe, not just to Iraq. When it closed, trade collapsed here. So the opening is very, very important for the region.
For Arra and its region, one of the least productive in Saudi Arabia, the opening of the border holds the promise of economic revival.
Come here, let's shake hands. What's happening?
So when Musaid meets up with friends in a cafe in the city, the conversation oscillates between nostalgia and hope.
All our houses used to be built with Iraqi cement. It had a good reputation. And we used to eat Iraqi rice. It's thicker. We loved it. Or khmer, this cheese. It's very thick. We use so many Iraqi products.
Yes, and I think that in 5 years the area will attract again big traders and big companies. At least if they open the border crossing completely. The demand for land to rent here should increase and the area will develop.
While waiting for these better days, the increase in road freight remains the most visible effect of the reopening of the border.
We've arrived. That's the entrance over there. We have to make a first stop here to register.
After 10 hours on the road, Mohammed has finally reached the Arra station.
Yes, I'm coming back. There is a new tax to pay apparently, about 10 euros. But they don't want me to pay it in front of the camera. This is the border crossing. Everything has been redone by the Saudi government here. I think it took them about 5 months to finish construction here.
This is where his journey ends, in a fenced yard where trucks from both countries are parked. The goods will be exchanged here, and then the drivers will go all the way back. The men themselves are still not allowed to pass. Only the cargo will cross the border. A restriction that does not simplify logistics.
Hello, Abu Rayyan. How are you? I would like to know when the Saudi trucks will arrive. Do you know?
Look, I don't know. It seems like there's a problem with the drivers on the other side. And they're Indian, so I can't communicate with them. They will arrive later than expected, that's for sure.
Okay, well, we are at the border. We are waiting. We'll stay in touch.
Mohammed will have to wait for several days on this empty field without any facilities. Some of the drivers have already been here for more than a week, and they're letting their frustration show.
There's nothing in this yard, and they haven't been able to organize it properly. Honestly, look at it. It's deplorable. The area isn't even paved. It's dirty. There are no toilets for the drivers. They charge us $200 to access this space, and what are they doing with that money?
While imperfect and sometimes frustrating, the opening of the Arab border crossing marks the beginning of a new era in relations between Iraq and Saudi Arabia. For cross-border populations, it brings new hope. Baghdad and Riyadh are now in discussion about opening 2 additional crossing points.